So good evening, my name is Zwart. I work for Bits of Freedom. We focus on privacy and freedom of speech in the online world. I'm going to have a very short talk, 5 or 10 minutes I hope, and it will be 100% Bitcoin and blockchain free. Who here will have the right to vote on the 21st of March for this referendum? Quite a few people. Okay, so I'm hoping to convince you that you should vote no. And so I want to talk a little bit about the secret services. So in the Netherlands we have two, a military one and a general one. And this is really irritating. So the secret services. I want to be clear. I do think that it is necessary in a democracy like ours to have secret services. I'm sure there's a few people here who will disagree with me, but I do think that that is the case. They are necessary. We need services that operate secretly to enable our safety. At the same time, I do think it's very important to see them as a necessary evil. So you can't do without them, but it is an institution inside your democracy that is a little bit rotten in a sense. Because you want your democracy to be transparent. You don't want government agents operating in the shadows, doing things that you're not sure what they're doing. So whenever somebody from the Secret Services tells me, trust us, we have your best interest at heart, I always get a little bit uncomfortable because I think actually they should be telling me, don't trust us, check us, make sure to keep us sharp because we have incredible powers actually. The Secret Services can do a lot. In the Netherlands we are lucky that we have a law. We are also lucky that the law is public. So we get to see what is in the law, so we see what powers our secret services have. And so there's going to be an advisory referendum on the 21st of March, and the question will be very binary, unfortunately. The question will be, are you for or against this Wet op de Inlichtingen en Veiligheidsdiensten 2017? That's the name for this particular Intelligence Act. And we say the result's an advice, but we're trying to say a vote against this act is not a vote against having a law in general. It is a vote that tells the government that the act needs to be improved. Throughout this legislative process, there have been a lot of institutes who have been very critical of this law, and very little has been done with this critique. Every next step, the critique sort of wasn't accommodated and just kept going and kept going. So it's not a request to repeal the law, it's actually us as citizens telling the government, please improve this law. Why? Because we think it's incredibly important that innocent citizens need to be protected, and that the current law falls short on 5 points. So I want to quickly get you through to those points. What needs to be done to improve the act? You can find everything about it on beterewet.nl. But the first thing that needs to happen is we need to remove this dragnet. There is a new power in the law. It used to be that the Secret Services could do targeted interception on the internet cables, and now they're going to be able to do bulk interception permanently and at scale. There is this sort of euphemism that the government created for it. In Dutch it's called onderzoeksopdrachtgerichte interceptie. This is because they didn't think the word ongericht, so untargeted, didn't sound so nice, so they kept changing it until they reached this point. I sort of translated it as an investigatory order. So it needs to relate to a particular investigation, but still, and that should decide the scope of the dragnet. But still, the scale can be tremendous. Basically, there is no limit to the scale. It's a very broad and open concept. We're not sure what falls inside of it, but we have some anecdotal examples from the minister. For example, he says it could be the communications around a mission, a military mission. Yeah? So that I can understand. Or it could be all chat communications of a particular app in a particular city. Or it could be all internet traffic from public Wi-Fi hotspots in a city. It's basically a very, very broad concept. The government will tell you, please do not worry. This is a literal quote from the agreement under which we're now governed. It says it cannot be random and massive, the collection of data of citizens in the Netherlands. But the fact is that that is actually not in the law. And when you look at what the minister has said during the negotiations about the role, is that he said, literally, I'll do it in Dutch, because the people who vote here have to be able to understand that. Daarbij zal wel degelijk stelselmatig en op een zeker grote schaal data worden vergaard en geanalyseerd. Dit op voorraad uitsluiten, like they're pretending that they're doing in het regeerakkoord, miskent de aard van this terrible euphemism, onderzoeksopdrachtgerichte interceptie. So we're saying innocent citizens should not be in the crosshairs of the secret services. You cannot have a dragnet built that just looks indiscriminately at bulk data. Needs to be out. The second one is that there should be no international exchange of unevaluated data. And there will be a speaker after me who will talk a little bit more about this. So I won't go into that right now. Then it is very important for us to limit real-time access. This is like a little bit of a back door in the law. As the secret services, you are allowed to ask of companies and organizations to basically become informants, in a sense. And the idea is that you can go to a company, let's say Ziggo, KPN, and you say, can you please hand us over some of your data? And it would be very nice, and it will save us a lot of time, if you can do this in real-time automated fashion. And the government will tell you that this is not a problem because it is a voluntary act from the company. The company doesn't have to do it, it's voluntary. Yeah, so you can imagine the secret services coming to your company and you telling them, well, don't want to do this. I think that's going to be a little bit hard. So we think that there needs to be some rules and regulations about the type of questions the secret services can ask of these companies. Because we don't think that the voluntary nature is any protection. We think it's very problematic that there's no need for an authorization by the minister or by some oversight committee about these voluntary real-time access requests. And the problem is also that it doesn't need to be targeted, so they can just say, please give us your data, it's probably going to be useful to us. Then we think it is incredibly important that as a secret service, you always notify vendors about 0 days. So 0 days are software problems that the creator of the software doesn't know about yet. Yeah? So imagine there's a way of getting in people's iPhones that Apple doesn't know yet, but the secret services do. Can be very useful if they want to hack into somebody's phone. But the problem always is that how can you be sure that the Secret Service is the only institution that knows of this mistake in the software? There is no software problem that only the Secret Services can get through. Yeah? So if that is open, if your phone is open, if it's possible to hack your phone by the Secret Services, then that necessarily means that it's also possible that a criminal hacks your phone, or the Secret Services from some other government, or who knows who. Yeah? We've seen some pretty bad examples about that recently. So the NSA was storing some of these 0 days, and one particular one was actually leaked because it's very hard to keep data safe. So it was leaked, and then later it was weaponized inside ransomware that led to billions of euros of damage in, for example, the harbor in Rotterdam. Yeah? So it was literally a weaponized 0-day that instead of the NSA telling Microsoft, please fix this, this can be a problem, they kept it for themselves because they thought it was convenient. So we say 0 days should always be notified, the vendor should always be notified of it. And the last thing is we're very lucky that we have a really independent oversight committee who can look at what the Secret Services have done after the fact and during operations. So basically, we have a law that governs the Secret Services. The Secret Services, of course, will always try and find the edge of the law. I think that's actually their duty to do that in a sense. But when you're operating at the edge, of course, sometimes you go over it, etc. And that's why we have an oversight committee that's really independent and it has access to everything that should then be able to stop these particular over-the-edge operations. Currently, in how the law is made, the oversight committee is not binding. So if they basically say, the law doesn't support this, you have to stop this, you can't do this, then it's not necessarily the case that the Secret Services actually will have to stop. So a short recap. We think the law can be better. We think that a no for this law basically tells the government, look, there's a few things that you can improve. 5, the dragnet should be removed. No international exchange of unevaluated data. Real-time access needs to be limited. Always notify vendors of 0 days and make the advice of the Oversight Committee binding. So with that, I want to leave you because I think a vote against is actually a vote for a better act. Thank you so much for your time.